The truth that lies within you is within you, and you have it. And full enlightenment is so close to you that you don't even understand how ridiculously close it is to you. Hey guys, how are you? I know this podcast has become fewer and far between as of late, but it will be falling back into a weekly schedule starting this spring and on into the summer and indefinitely, because I've got a number of projects that are planning to support the podcast and give us an extra content to put out, and so I just want to let you know that. And with that, let's go. Hey, welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace you ever wanted to ask. I'm your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so I just got back from Wisdom 2.0 in San Francisco 2015 to date this podcast, and it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. It was the first time that I had a chance to set in with a session done by Katie, who is especially well-versed in understanding the ego and the problems that it can cause within people, and it was an amazing session. Standing room only. They gave her a place that'll seat about 500 folks, and in a conference with 2,500 folks, it filled up and had a line on the outside waiting for people to get up and go elsewhere so they could take the seat. Fire codes, I guess, didn't allow people to stand in the room, but it was awesome. So if you want to check out some of Byron Katie's stuff, I highly suggest it because she has a great understanding of ego, at least from my perspective. I got to see my friend Mang Tan, who is Google's jolly good fellow and is a billionaire who has promised his fortune to creating conditions for world peace before the end of his lifetime, and he's an awesome dude. So I was really glad to see him. It's always a pleasure. I got to chat with Jon Kabat-Zinn, who was the founder in the United States of mindfulness and meditation here. He's out on the left coast as well. And so it was just an awesome time. I had a great experience and made some new connections with Shinzen Young's folks. And a lot of people don't know about Shinzen. He is not excessively popular out in the regular world as far as mindfulness and meditation, but he is probably one of the most enlightened people on the planet. And within the circle of mindfulness and the search for enlightenment and teaching about both, he is highly regarded as one of the masters. I just can't say enough good things about Shinzen. If you want to give a Google search for him and pick up any of his stuff, including on Audible, you can pick up The Science of Enlightenment, where he goes from a cursory perspective, kind of a top-level view, and just goes deep on explaining a lot of the phenomenon and the science and just some really cool stuff about spiritual enlightenment. So check that stuff out. Can't speak highly enough about Shinzen either. He is one of my secret heroes, and I love his stuff. So I've been writing this book, kind of in the same stream, on from A to Z, basically, what is all this spirituality stuff? And then I'm going to introduce the brand new stuff that I've been working on that's going to be brand new in the mindfulness and understanding of mind world about our emotions. And so that's going to be brand new, and I've passed it through some experts at MIT and now Stanford and UCLA and Berkeley, and a couple of other folks have looked at it on the science side, and they say, yeah, it looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to explain the things that stop us from being more spiritual and having a higher level of inner peace, of course, which I also presented in the Body, Mind, Spirit 101. Go back to episodes 1 through about 25 if you want to understand that stuff. I'm going to repackage that stuff, explain it a little bit better, explain it a little more drawn out, and from a more practical approach. And then I'm going to go right on through enlightenment, right on through to developing, quote unquote, which Jon Kabat-Zinn thought that was an interesting word, developing nirvana, which is long-lasting, almost never-ending bliss, to where things in the world that used to bother you just don't bother you anymore, and negative emotions become an option for you. You can use them if they are useful, like anger can be useful at times if you need to fire yourself up and use that energy in a positive, constructive way. But if it's not in a light of creating a positive outcome, you can avoid being angry about things and avoid being sad about things or being afraid about things or any of the number of emotions that fall into one of those families or the associated families. So I've been writing that book, and it's coming out soon. It's going to be called Stuck in Bliss: The Practical Guide to Developing the World's Best Problem. And so that'll be fun. I already have the book cover designed, and we're getting ready to hand off a bunch of the manuscript to the editor to have them chop it up and do all the things editors do. When you speak about spiritual exploration and especially enlightenment, it's really difficult to write about, because the fact is that saying even one word, you're already taking people farther away from spiritual truth than they were just a second ago before you had said even one word. The truth that lies within you is within you, and you have it. And full enlightenment is so close to you that you don't even understand how ridiculously close it is to you. And so when you start speaking about it, you start speaking about these concepts, you start talking about things spiritual, you're taking people away from the truth in the hopes that you can come full circle and lead them into a place of inner discovery and inner understanding. But again, that word inner brings you right back inside yourself. And that's why that almost every one of the world's wisdom traditions, in fact, every one of the world's wisdom traditions, has a meditative component within it. And yes, even Christianity. In fact, the only Christian folks really that are lost are the ones here in the southern United States, where they've lost meditation because the base of Christianity, the Orthodox Christianity from across the pond, Eastern Christianity in Russia, as a matter of fact, they're all about meditation and attaining theosis, which is becoming like God or becoming one with God. As Jesus said, I and the Father are one. And he always talked about the kingdom within, and he always talked about people coming after him who would do those great deeds and more. Well, how can any of us do any greater deeds than he did if we are also not partly divine, right? So every wisdom tradition in the world has a basis in meditation, in seeking within, in silencing the mind to discover what exists within us, to discover regarding our divinity, our connection with God and the universe and ultimate truth, etc. I mean, the Islam has it in Sufism. Judaism has it in Kabbalah, which is the mystical tradition of the Jewish folk. Of course, Christianity, Jesus meditated, and all across the pond, Christianity is about meditation and silencing. In fact, in the highest monasteries within Christianity, they practice a contemplative prayer, a silencing prayer. And in fact, when you entered the monastery in Europe, that's exactly why you were entering the monastery, is to find that silencing prayer. And of course, the Eastern traditions, Taoism, all about enlightenment. Buddhism, all about enlightenment. The Buddha was all about training people how to sit and how to meditate and how to quiet your mind. And the reason that is because you sitting right there in that chair, or wherever you're sitting or standing or running or whatever you're doing to take in this podcast, within your cells is a great deal of intelligence, right? Because to create you, two cells came together and formed a bond, a union, and created everything that you have there as your human existence. And that was life. Those were two cells that were alive from within your parents that came together to create your existence. And of course, there's a great deal of intelligence there, because within those two cells were a whole body exploded. And within 9 months, you were able to survive outside your mother. Yeah, you needed some care. You needed some food. You needed to be taught how to walk and talk and et cetera. And without all that stuff, you would have died. But beyond being umbilically attached, you were your own person 9 months after those two cells came together. And so there's a great deal of intelligence there. We have no idea how that was done, how those cells did that. And they're like, yeah, this is old hat. We've been doing this for eons, right? Well, there's a ton of intelligence in those cells, in your biology. There are billions of lines of code in our DNA. And your cells have not known death since the beginning of life, the spark of life that began whenever it began. Because you're alive, and you came from two cells that were alive from two other beings. And they came from two cells from two other beings. On and on and on and on and on. And if you want to go back to, a creation story, or you want to go back to an evolution story, that chain goes all the way back to life whenever it began. The chain of life within you has not stopped since the spark of creation existed. And we know that cells have a great deal of intelligence. I mean, I'm going to explain it in my book to the nth degree, but just look at the body sitting in front of you and how well it runs by itself without your conscious input. You have absolutely nothing to do with that. You have absolutely nothing to do with the intelligence of the white blood cells that know which cells and pathogens to kill and which ones are part of you and shouldn't be. There's an immense amount of intelligence and wisdom within you. And that's what meditation is all about. Meditation is all about quieting the mind and finding that intelligence and wisdom that is stored within you, because they've seen it all from the beginning of time on forward. And if you don't think that there's memory in the cellular structure and the ability for cells to access a greater, higher level of intelligence and wisdom, you need to take a closer look. And that's what meditation is all about, by the way. Taking a closer look at what is within you, the wisdom, the intelligence that exists within you. And so when we employ our minds, they're creating all this noise. They're creating all this thought about who's going to get kicked off Idol, or The Voice, or what's going on in your favorite television show, or, what are you going to have for lunch tomorrow, or I can't believe she said this, or he said that, or all the stuff at work, or all the stuff, this guy just cut you off in traffic, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's a never-ending stream. And so when you shut down that stream, you quiet that stream, you train your brain to reduce that noise, you can start to hear and feel the wisdom and the intelligence within you. And that's what it's all about. And so writing a book about this process is you hope it goes full circle, because you start with words that start taking people away from the truth right away. Word one, you start taking people away from the truth. You start employing their mind and their thoughts and getting them to chew on what you're thinking about, and you hope to bring them full circle back into a place where they can stop thinking. And they can stop and listen to the wisdom that exists within them. And that's what it's all about. I hope this book does that for you. Regarding the marketing of this book, I'm going to need your help. So heads up, I'm going to want you to buy a copy, of course, and I'm going to want you to share some, if you can, buy extra copies and give them away, or send people to the website, or to Amazon, or to Audible, because I'm going to have the Audible version out as well. This is going to be a big effort. This is going to be a major book. It's going to have some brand new stuff that isn't rehashed material from 2,500 years ago or longer. With my spin on it, it's going to be some brand new stuff that's really going to help some folks. And I'm fully convinced of that now over the responses of the podcasts that we've had over the last number of years. We've had some full awakenings because of the teachings in this podcast. And I really, really want to help spread that to the world. I don't want to be rich. I don't care if I break even on this stuff. I want to be able to get this information out so that people can improve their lives, so that you can improve your own life and you can find what I've got. Because what I experience every day is friggin' awesome. I get a choice of whether or not to experience the negative emotions that want to arise within me. How can that, is there such a thing as more liberation than that? I am not held by the chains of the processes of mind that most of the time ruin our day, right? Because negative emotions are an unconscious process that can spring up and ruin our day regardless of whether we want them to or not. Well, this is going to give you the power to have that decisive ability to say, no. It's not going to ruin my day. Whatever you try to do with me, I don't care. You will not be able to ruin my day. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about when we talk about nirvana and never-ending bliss. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about liberation. The ability to control your mind and emotions, not have your mind and emotions control you. And that's huge. And there's some brand new content in this sucker, and it is going to be impactful for a lot of folks. Maybe not everybody, certainly not everybody, but for the folks who are ready for it, the folks who want to make the change, folks who want to have that information, you better bet it's going to be hugely impactful because no one has ever covered some of this content ever before. It is brand new. And I will stake my house, life, reputation, existence on it. So I hope this message finds you well, and I just wanted to have it serve as a reminder that if you're not meditating, certainly start meditating. I got this thing, this Muse headset thing, which is a meditation training piece of technology that goes on your head, and it helps you with your application actually watch what's going on with your brain waves, and it gives you audio feedback of how well you're training your mind in meditating. We'll talk about that in the next few weeks. Also, I just had delivered a Zen tent, sensory deprivation tank, and I will have some special offers for you in the upcoming weeks on a discount code for you to be able to get a sensory deprivation tank for your house. And yes, they used to be way too expensive to get one for your house and way too big. I think the Samadhi tank was somewhere around $30,000, which is ridiculous. But this Zen tent I got for under $2,000. It went a little over $2,000 with all the salt. There's 800 pounds of salt sitting in my garage on a pallet waiting to go into this thing. I will be talking about that, which is a meditation aid, in the next few weeks as well. And it's all about training your mind to quiet down so that you can get to the truth within and underneath the noise that exists. Because when you silence your mind, you get to hear what exists just beyond. And that's what all the world's religions talk about. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, the 200,000 plus religions in Africa, variations on a theme based on all the different tribes that exist there, all have meditative practices within them. And so if we are not meditating on a regular basis, get back into it. It only takes a few minutes a day. In fact, my friend Meng does a meditation, a loving kindness meditation. If you walk into his office for a meeting, he'll take 10 seconds to walk across the room and grab a pen. He doesn't take a single note, I hear. He walks across the room. He says, hold on a second. Creates a moment of silence where you're waiting for him. He walks across the room, picks up a pen, comes over, doesn't take a lick of notes. But in that time that he's walking over to grab his pen and come back to you for your meeting, he's wishing you a loving kindness meditation, hoping that you are happy, wishing you well, wishing you your end of suffering, where he'll sit down and then start the meeting. And he takes that 10 seconds to do his meditative practice for you And so you can do it at a stoplight. You can do it while walking, while running. I have a friend in California I just met who's working on teaching a program of meditation for music while listening to music. How cool is that? So anyway, I hope things are well for you. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. More announcements coming real soon, and more awesome podcasts are in the pipeline. Love you. Peace.